America is the richest country on Earth, and it cannot keep its lights on. In the first 9 months of 2024 alone, U.S. electricity customers endured 1.2 billion hours of power outages. That's the worst since anyone started counting. And here's the thing most people don't realize. Every single time the grid goes dark, the same company gets rich. Generac Power Systems adds somewhere between $50 and $100 million in sales after every major storm. Hurricanes Helene and Milton hit in 2024, and Generac's residential sales jumped 28% in a single quarter. Whether it's a 22-kilowatt whole-house standby or a portable inverter generator sitting on someone's back porch, every unit sold is a vote of no confidence in the American grid. This is not a story about generators. This is a story about a promise that was made 142 years ago. A promise that electricity would be everywhere, always, for everyone. That promise built the most powerful nation on the planet. And now it's breaking apart. The portable generator market is worth over $8 billion today. 70% of residential generator owners bought one for the same reason. The power went out and nobody came to fix it. This is how America got addicted to generators. And it all started with one man, one street, and 6 machines that weighed 27 tons each. On September 4th, 1882, a man named John Lieb closed a switch inside J.P. Morgan's office on Wall Street, and for the first time in history, an entire neighborhood lit up with electric light. The power came from 2 blocks away, 257 Pearl Street, Lower Manhattan. A building the size of a small warehouse, packed with 6 massive dynamos that Thomas Edison had personally designed. Each one weighed 27 tons. They called them jumbos, after P.T. Barnum's famous elephant. That first day, the Pearl Street station served 85 customers and powered 400 light bulbs across a quarter-square mile of downtown New York. It doesn't sound like much. But what Edison had built was something no one had ever seen before. A central power station that could send electricity through underground copper wires into homes and businesses, on demand, at the flip of a switch. 2 years later, Pearl Street served 508 customers and powered over 10,000 lamps. Edison wasn't just selling light bulbs. He was selling a future. A future where no one would ever sit in the dark again. And America bought it. Completely. Within 4 years of Pearl Street, nearly 50 hydroelectric generating stations were announced across North America. By the turn of the century, hydroelectric power alone accounted for more than 40% of the country's total electricity supply. The grid spread like a nervous system, from New York to Chicago to Los Angeles, through every suburb, every factory, every hospital. And then something happened that Edison probably never considered. America stopped thinking about where its electricity came from. It just expected it to be there, every morning, every night, forever. That expectation is the foundation of everything that came next. Because when you build an entire civilization on the assumption that the lights will always stay on, you create a very specific kind of vulnerability. The kind that turns a weather event into a catastrophe. For most of the 20th century, the system worked. Power plants got bigger, transmission lines reached further, America electrified faster than any nation on Earth, and the grid became invisible. Just another thing you never had to think about, like running water or paved roads. Then came December 31st, 1999. I2K, the Millennium Bug. Computers were supposed to crash. Power plants were supposed to fail. The grid was supposed to go dark at midnight. None of it happened. But something else did. Millions of Americans looked at their homes, looked at their freezers full of food and their electric furnaces and their sump pumps and thought, what if the power actually goes out? Generator sales surged. Generac, a small Wisconsin company that had been making industrial generators since 1959, had just launched a new product. An affordable home standby generator that could kick in automatically when the grid went down, connected to a natural gas or propane line and wired into the house through an automatic transfer switch. The timing was perfect. Y2K didn't break the grid, but it broke something more important. It broke the assumption that the grid would always be there. And then the storms came. The 2004 and 2005 hurricane seasons shattered records. Hurricane Katrina alone left 3 million people without power. Hurricane Ike in 2008. Irene in 2011, after which FEMA officially encouraged homeowners to buy backup generators. Sandy in 2012 knocked out power for 8.5 million homes across 17 states. Each storm followed the same pattern. The lights go out, people panic. They drive to Home Depot and buy every generator on the shelf. The shelves empty in hours. Prices spike. Generac's stock climbs. Competitors like Kohler and Champion Power Equipment sell out too. Then the power comes back, and everyone forgets, until the next storm. But Texas was different. February 2021, winter storm Uri. The temperature dropped below zero across the state, and the grid didn't just stumble. It collapsed. 4.5 million Texans lost power, some for 4 days straight. Power plants froze. Natural gas pipelines froze. Wind turbines froze. The wholesale price of electricity hit the cap, $9,000 per megawatt hour, and stayed there for 77 consecutive hours. People died in their homes, not in some developing country, in Texas, in the United States of America, because the grid failed and they didn't have a generator. And tragically, in the desperate scramble that followed, dozens more died from carbon monoxide poisoning, running portable generators indoors or in garages without proper ventilation. The crisis had layers. The grid failed, and then the solution to the grid failing became its own emergency. And what I find most striking about all of this is not that it happened. Grids fail, storms hit, that's nature. What gets me is what happened afterward. No one rebuilt the grid. No one passed a law that fundamentally changed how Texas generates or distributes power. What happened was Generac opened a new factory in South Carolina, added 400 production workers, and started shipping more units. The national response to a failing grid wasn't to fix the grid. It was to sell more machines that make the grid optional. That week changed everything. After Texas, generator sales didn't just spike, they restructured. This wasn't panic buying anymore. This was infrastructure planning at the household level. Homeowners weren't just grabbing whatever was left on the shelf. They were researching wattage requirements, comparing 5 kilowatt portables against 10 or 22 kilowatt whole house standby units, weighing the cost of a dual fuel inverter generator against a permanent natural gas installation with an automatic transfer switch. The numbers tell the story. The portable generator market crossed $8 billion in 2025. Over 1.5 million units now ship every year in the United States alone. The country accounts for 85% of all portable generator sales in North America, and 70% of the people who buy one give the same reason. The power went out and nobody came to fix it. Generac now has over 9,000 authorized dealers across the country. They added 400 new ones in a single year, most of them in Texas and the Southeast. Every major hurricane generates between $50 and $100 million in incremental sales for the company. In 2024, their residential product revenue hit $723 million in one quarter. Not 1 year, 1 quarter. So America builds more generators, and every single one tells the same story. Someone stood in a dark house, watched their food spoil in the fridge, and decided, never again. That's not preparedness. That's a country losing faith in its own infrastructure. The richest country on Earth now runs a parallel power system. Millions of small engines sitting in garages and on concrete pads behind suburban homes, waiting for the moment the real system fails. Which it does, regularly. Edison's promise was simple. Electricity, everywhere, always. 142 years later, Americans are spending $8 billion a year on machines that exist for one reason only, because that promise was broken. And the strangest part? Nobody is fixing the grid. They're just buying more generators.